I went to the trade hub for paperwork. That was the plan. In, stamp out. 12 minutes tops. I had a list, a budget, and a personal rule about not making eye contact with anything that had more than 2 pupils. The place smelled like disinfectant and ambition, which usually means someone is about to overcharge you for something you didn't know you were buying. The clerk waved me forward with 3 hands and a smile that suggested fees were about to happen. Processing? He asked. Yes, I said. Just processing. He nodded like a man who'd heard those exact words right before a very different transaction. Basic release package? Release? I squinted at the terminal. I'm just here to clear docking restrictions. Same form, he said cheerfully. Standard activation. Nothing fancy. I hate the word activation. It's one of those words that means we're about to flip a switch and see what screams. Still, the price flashed on the screen. 12 credits. I relaxed. 12 credits is what you pay for a cup of station coffee that tastes like regret. I slapped my thumbprint down and told myself I was winning today. That's when the collar clicked. The sound carried. Heads turned. A hush rippled through the hall like someone had dropped a secret on the floor. I looked up from the terminal to see a figure step forward from behind a partition. Tall, copper-furred, ears high and alert, eyes the color of mischief that had survived a war. The collar around her neck dimmed, then went dark. She touched it, surprised, then looked at me like I'd just pulled a card from a deck she'd been stacking for years. Oh, she said. You. I'm sorry, I said immediately, which is my instinct whenever the universe locks eyes with me. If that was loud. The clerk clapped. Congratulations. For what? For completing the transfer. I transferred nothing. He leaned in, conspiratorial. You activated the full package. I glanced back at the screen. The receipt scrolled by, cheerful and final. Release fee paid. Status freed. Responsibility assigned. I needed a receipt, I said. Not responsibility. The Vulpine woman took a step closer, appraising. You paid, she said, slow and careful, like tasting a word. For my freedom. Yes, I said, relieved. That's good, right? Freedom is good. Everyone likes freedom. We're done. She smiled, showing a little too much confidence for someone who'd just been freed by a stranger with a budget app. And with freedom comes arrangement. No, I said. No arrangement. I don't do arrangements. I do forms. The clerk coughed. Customary accompaniment applies. What accompaniment? He gestured at her. Her. The crowd had leaned in. A few species were taking bets. One was already laughing. I felt heat creep up my neck. I couldn't afford a planet, I muttered. Apparently I could afford her. She heard that. Her ears flicked. Afford me? I didn't mean. Premium stock, she said, offended now. Undervalued only by ignorance. I paid what it said, I said weakly. 12 credits. A murmur rippled again. 12 credits. That phrase landed like a dare. The clerk's smile thinned. Ah, he said. You chose economy. I chose clarity. She stepped closer still, close enough that I could smell ozone and something sharp, like confidence. You realize, she said, that activating my status without negotiation implies intent. I asked for a receipt, I said. You asked where we were sleeping. That was a practical question. I live alone, I blurted. Very alone. Minimal furniture. She considered this. Minimal, she repeated. A challenge, then? No, I said quickly. A warning. The clerk cleared his throat. I'll finalize the paperwork. Wait, I said. Finalize what? Ownership. I do not own. Stewardship, the Vulpine corrected. Temporary, obviously. Unless you disappoint. The word disappoint did things to the room. A few aliens snorted. One applauded. I felt like I was the only one who hadn't gotten the memo about what we were pretending this was. I'm on a budget, I said, because it felt like the only truth I had left. She smiled again, sharper this time. Then you should have haggled. I don't haggle, I said. I compare prices and leave. That explains a lot, she said, and turned to the clerk. Record that he paid without bargaining. The clerk's fingers flew. Noted. Bold move. It wasn't bold, I said. It was 12 credits. Exactly, she said softly. The collar lay dead at her feet now, a small ring of metal that had meant everything 5 minutes ago and nothing at all now. She nudged it aside with her boot and looked at me with a tilt of her head that made it clear she'd already decided I was interesting in the way a puzzle is interesting, not because it's fun, but because it refuses to behave. So, she said. What now? Now? I swallowed. Now I get my receipt. The terminal chimed. A new line appeared under the receipt. Ancillary clause attached. I didn't agree to a clause, I said. You paid, the clerk said. Clauses come free. The Vulpine leaned in, voice dropping. Relax. If you didn't want complications, you shouldn't have bought freedom. I didn't buy. She put a finger to my chest, light, almost polite. You did. The crowd began to disperse, disappointed the shouting hadn't started yet. The clerk slid the receipt across. I took it with shaking hands, scanned it once, then again, because my brain was doing that thing where it refuses to cooperate until it's too late. I looked up. She was still there. Waiting. Expectant. So, she said again, and this time the word felt heavier. Where are we going? I opened my mouth to explain, to clarify, to undo 12 credits worth of catastrophic efficiency. Instead, I heard myself say, I need to find a chair. She followed me out of the hub, ears high and tail flicking with purpose, like a metronome counting my growing anxiety. Every step I took, I felt the weight of 12 credits pressing down, not in money, but in attention. The station was loud, crowded, alive with the kind of chaos that humans can somehow navigate while aliens fumble like cats on ice. I, apparently, was no exception. I hope you're aware, she said, voice smooth and teasing, that by activating my freedom you've assumed obligations. I assumed nothing, I said immediately. I just wanted a receipt and a quiet day. Her laugh, sharp and short, cut through my protest. Receipt? She said like I'd just claimed she was a sandwich. I think you've misunderstood the meaning of payment. I literally pressed the confirm button, I said. 12 credits. That's all it said. And yet, she said, leaning closer, you didn't consider ancillary effects. I froze, trying to parse the double meaning, my brain tripping over the words. Ancillary effects? Yes, she replied, eyebrow raised. I come with standards. I swallowed. I don't even come with standards. My apartment barely qualifies as habitable. Her eyes glinted. Habitable doesn't matter. Compliance does. A beep from my terminal reminded me that, yes, technically I was now her custodian, or steward, or something in the neighborhood of a galactic co-signer. My hands twitched. I'm on a budget, I said, as though that could solve everything. She arched an eyebrow. Budget? 12 credits, I clarified. That's all I spent. Her tail flicked in amusement. 12 credits, she repeated, as though tasting the number. I see. Barely enough to buy a cup of station coffee, yet you acquired a premium package. I coughed. Package? Yes, she said, voice dropping, suggestive but precise. You activated the full package. Congratulations. I felt heat crawl up my neck. I thought the package was paperwork. Oh, paperwork is only the beginning, she said. I expect attention, participation, and a certain degree of initiative. Initiative? I asked, helpless. I get overwhelmed by email. Her ears twitched in silent laughter. Then perhaps I am your challenge. I'm allergic to challenges, I muttered. Not allergic enough, she replied, stepping closer so my shoulder brushed against hers. Her presence was sharp and warm, like someone who knew precisely how to make a human uncomfortable without lifting a finger. I can't even afford a planet, I said, half to myself, half to plead for mercy. You didn't need to, she said, tail flicking again. Apparently, I decided you were sufficient. I blinked. Sufficient? She smiled, a mix of amusement and approval. Yes. For now. Consider this a preliminary evaluation. I shuffled forward. Evaluation? Of your capabilities, she said, voice playful, hinting at something larger than words. Your endurance. Your patience. Your ability to handle unexpected responsibilities. I stopped walking. Patience? Yes. You'll need it, she said, straightening, ears high and alert, tail swishing slowly. And so will I. The station crowd began to thin, leaving us in a corridor that felt narrower with every heartbeat. Every alien I passed gave me looks that mixed pity with silent applause. Somehow, my human naivete had become legendary. I asked for a receipt, I said again, clutching the paper like a shield. Not this. This, she said, tilting her head, is exactly what comes with 12 credits. I laughed nervously. I didn't even bargain. Her laugh was soft, indulgent, dangerous. A bold move, she said. Or foolish. Time will tell. I swallowed and tried to recalibrate. My life had just expanded exponentially with no warning, all because I thought I was paying a processing fee. Are you always this aggressive? I asked. I am always this observant, she said. And now I am your responsibility. I paused. Responsibility? Yes, she said. Do not underestimate what comes with freedom. I am not merely free. I am fully engaged. I cursed the word engaged under my breath. I just wanted a quiet day, I muttered. And now, she said, voice smooth, teasing, sharp, you've acquired a package deal. Congratulations, human. I shivered, uncertain if it was the cold metal corridor or the implications of owning, or stewarding, a creature who was clearly the embodiment of trouble wrapped in copper fur and pointed ears. I glanced at my receipt again. 12 credits. Small, meaningless, yet somehow the most expensive thing I had ever purchased. She nudged my shoulder lightly. Shall we begin the evaluation? I swallowed, nodded, and tried to appear confident, knowing full well that my budget, my apartment, and my entire sense of control were about to be tested in ways that a single 12-credit transaction could never have prepared me for. The next morning, I realized that 12 credits had consequences far beyond what I had anticipated. The Vulpine was already rearranging my apartment, or rather, assessing it like a general evaluating territory. Her tail swept over my barely there furniture as if marking it, measuring it, and filing a mental report. I hope you're aware, she said, voice casual but deadly, that freedom comes with privileges and obligations. I'm aware of taxes, I said weakly. And rent. She laughed, a low, rolling sound that made me wish I'd taken up meditation. You misunderstand, she said. I'm talking about responsibility of stewardship. Ownership of your choices. And yes, incidental planetary rights. Planetary rights? My heart skipped. Wait, you mean like property rights? She arched an eyebrow. Exactly. By activating my freedom, you have inadvertently assumed a level of control over the estate that accompanies me. I backed up a step. Estate? Yes. The family holdings. Their assets. Entire planet. I felt my brain short-circuit. I paid 12 credits, I muttered. 12 credits? Yes, she said, ears twitching. And apparently 12 credits is enough to buy the equivalent of a world. I pinched the bridge of my nose. I didn't want a world. I wanted a receipt and maybe a cup of coffee. Her tail flicked, knocking over a potted plant I hadn't realized was even alive. You underestimate human resourcefulness, she said. Or perhaps your human arrogance blinds you to scale. I'm not arrogant, I said, though my voice wavered. I just misclicked. Precisely, she said, voice soft, dangerous. You misclicked, yet the galaxy sees you as a masterful negotiator. You have no idea how humans confound expectation. Expectation? I asked, voice cracking. Yes. Aliens assume you're cheap, impulsive, or incompetent, she explained. But you operate within tiny margins of error, and somehow, that makes you formidable. Ridiculous, yes, but formidable. I blinked. So what you're saying is, I bought freedom, and the freedom comes with a planet? Yes. And me. She stepped closer, eyes gleaming. And consequences. I rubbed my temples. Consequences? For 12 credits? Exactly, she said with a teasing smirk. You underestimated the true cost of freedom. You thought in currency. I think in impact. I glanced at my receipt again. 12 credits. Still small numbers, meaningless in human terms, monumental in galactic terms. I can't even afford groceries this week, I muttered. You can afford influence, she said. Power. Strategic advantage. And now, apparently, a planet. I shivered. This is not what I signed up for. Ah, she said, tilting her head. But it is exactly what you activated. I tried to regain control. Can I return it? No, she said. Returns are only valid in commerce. This is engagement. Engagement? I repeated. My voice cracked on the word. Yes. You engaged in an agreement by inaction, she said. By pressing confirm, you committed to more than you imagined. I sighed. I'm not even sure I know what I imagined. She smiled, a slow, deliberate curve of teeth and copper fur. Perhaps that is part of the lesson. You humans often think small. You calculate cost. You never anticipate effect. I rubbed my eyes. Effect? What effect? Her tail flicked once, decisively. That you are now responsible for me, my decisions, my family's legacy, and a planet you didn't even want. I pinched the bridge of my nose again. I just wanted a quiet day. Quiet days, she said, voice gentle but firm, do not exist when freedom is involved. I groaned. I underestimated everything. This apartment, this arrangement, this planet. She nodded approvingly. You underestimated, yes. But humans are fascinating in their ability to improvise. You will adapt. I doubt it, I said. I can't even find a chair without a lecture. You will, she said. And when you do, the galaxy will be none the wiser. Except me. I will always know. I swallowed hard. 12 credits. A planet. And her. Somehow, the numbers didn't add up. I had not planned for consequences of this magnitude. Not in my wildest, most panicked dreams. Lesson 1, she said, stepping closer, tail brushing my leg. Freedom is not cheap. Responsibility is not negotiable. And humans are surprisingly expensive to the galaxy when they don't even try. I nodded slowly, because arguing felt futile. And because, somehow, she was right. The galaxy had decided I was important, even if I hadn't asked for it. And lesson 2, she added, a sly smile curling her lips. Sometimes the package deal is worth more than the sum of its credits. I glanced at her, at the 12-credit receipt in my trembling hands, and realized the absurdity of it all. I didn't want a planet, a Vulpine, or a galactic legacy. Yet here I was, holding all three, and somehow expected to act like it was normal. I tried to breathe, steady my nerves, and figure out which problem to tackle first. I decided quickly, it wasn't the planet. It wasn't her. It was me. And for once, I was terrified that the human way of thinking, small, cheap, and practical, was completely useless in the face of 12 credits and a Vulpine who knew her worth. She leaned in close, voice teasing. eyes glinting like stars. Ready to begin? I swallowed, nodded, and accepted that no amount of budgeting, planning, or rational thinking would prepare me for what came next. I spent the next hour trying to make sense of what 12 credits had done. My apartment, once a simple, barely furnished human dwelling, now felt like a stage for galactic bureaucracy. The Vulpine stood in the center, tail swishing, ears alert, assessing every surface, every corner, as though she were cataloging ownership, my ownership, her freedom, and apparently, the planet that came with her. I still don't understand why I have to care about a planet, I said, rubbing my forehead. I can barely pay for groceries, let alone planetary maintenance. You misunderstand, she said, voice soft, teasing. The planet is a consequence of your action. You pressed confirm. You activated freedom. You triggered inheritance. Inheritance? I groaned. I didn't sign up for inheritance. Yes, she said. And yet here we are. You are now steward of both me and our collective assets. I pinched the bridge of my nose and muttered, This is insane. 12 credits, and suddenly I'm responsible for everything? Not everything, she corrected, stepping closer. Only what truly matters. Your patience, your cleverness, and your willingness to improvise under stress. I improvise poorly, I said. I misclicked my life into a planetary mess. She smiled, ears flicking. Exactly. And that, human, is why you are uniquely interesting. You act small, unassuming, yet your choices ripple. I glanced at the receipt. 12 credits. Minuscule, meaningless, except apparently monumental. I laughed nervously. I can't even afford a chair. How am I supposed to manage a planet? Carefully, she said, tail brushing my leg. And creatively. And with discretion. But mostly, you'll need to keep up with me. I don't think I can keep up, I admitted. You're fast, smart, and frankly terrifying. Terrifying? She asked, a low chuckle in her voice. Or fascinating? Fascinating, I said quickly. Definitely fascinating. Terrifying is optional. Optional, yes, she said, voice soft but deliberate. But inevitable if you underestimate me again. I nodded, swallowing. My life had shifted on a dime. 12 credits, a misclick, and suddenly I was the human who bought freedom, and a planet, apparently, without ever intending to. You will adapt, she said. Humans are remarkable in their ability to adjust to absurdity. Look at you already, panicking efficiently. I groaned. Efficiency is not my strong suit under pressure. She stepped closer, voice teasing, eyes glinting with mischief. Then consider this a test. You bought my freedom. Everything else? Optional. But I'll make it interesting. I stared at her, realizing that the galaxy was watching, that every alien observer would mark this moment as the human who paid 12 credits and got a Vulpine, planetary rights, and a test of patience they would never forget. I didn't want any of this, I said, voice trembling between awe and exasperation. And yet, she said, voice silky, teeth glinting in amusement, here you are. With all of it. And a choice. A choice? I repeated, my stomach twisting. Yes, she said. You can panic, resist, or engage. I blinked. Engage? Fully, she said, stepping closer, tail flicking in amusement. Freedom came with a package. You bought it. Congratulations. I looked at my trembling hands, at the receipt, at her confident stance. 12 credits. That small number had detonated my life into chaos, responsibility, and some inexplicable sense of awe. I guess, I muttered, I'll engage. Her ears flicked. Wise human. Very wise. Now let's see how creatively you can handle consequences you never intended. I took a deep breath. 12 credits. 1 Vulpine. 1 planet. And apparently a lifetime of problems that would test every ounce of patience, ingenuity, and misplaced confidence I had. Lesson 1. She said softly, voice teasing, dangerous, and entirely compelling. Freedom is never cheap. Lesson 2: Humans are unexpectedly effective. And lesson 3? Yes? I asked, bracing myself. Sometimes, she said, voice dropping, tail brushing my leg, ears high. The package deal is worth more than the sum of its credits. I nodded, swallowed hard, and realized that, somehow, 12 credits had bought me far more than a receipt. Far more than freedom. It had bought me a Vulpine, planetary influence, and a front-row seat to the absurd, unpredictable, and entirely entertaining ripple effects of human decision-making. I glanced at her, she glanced at me, and I understood that our partnership, chosen, accidental, and chaotic, was only just beginning.